Have we reached peak complexity in cybersecurity? What does simplicity have to offer? I'm Val Bercovici with BioTone ZKI. Let's find out. Studies have shown that anywhere from 88 to 95% of all data breaches and cybersecurity outages are due to complexity, are due to human error that's the result of all that complexity. What the CrowdStrike outage just showed us is that the blast radius of all that complexity is nearly unlimited. Here's a brief preview, a teaser of the actual economic benefit of introducing radical simplicity into your cybersecurity environment based on first principles thinking, which we're going to dive into right now and defend these numbers later on in the presentation. One of the first opportunities for radically simplifying our cybersecurity posture is to actually utilize the advanced, remarkable technology that's available in phones in our pockets right now, on our laptops, and everywhere else we have modern technology. And we can start with identity. We really have to kill the password, because now we have advanced biometric technologies that can overcome all known deepfake scenarios with regards to applying volumetric video, synchronized audio voice sprints with that volumetric 3D video, and even advanced technologies that are FIDO2 compliant with regards to our personal individual biological radiation signature being part of a phone case, for example, as on-device multi-factor authentication to really provide bulletproof biometric authentication. And we can do that continuously, and it's simple because all you have to do is bring yourself to the table. Now, Apple is known for simplicity, and no surprise, there's a Steve Jobs quote for this, and Apple itself, through these two particular technology announcements, is leading the charge. And what they're doing is they're doing away with over 40 years of cybersecurity detours we've had to take because we weren't able to do one simple thing with encryption, and that's securely share keys. So we have these awkward, high vulnerability workarounds based on asymmetric encryption, passwords, tokens, keys, certificate management. All of PKI is a nightmare for security teams to maintain and is friction for users that actually gets in the way of us enjoying our applications. And so ZKI, as a successor to PKI, zero knowledge infrastructure as opposed to public key infrastructure, is the way forward based on radically simple symmetric encryption. And how does that work, you may ask? Well, over 1 billion people, in fact, probably closer to 2 billion people are already using this right now. Ever since the iOS 17.4 introduction of Apple's PQ3, post-quantum 3 key management scheme for iMessage on all iPhones, of course, and iPads and other devices running iOS supporting iMessage, Apple's actually had the ability to safely share keys using iCloud, using the fact that we have verified contacts in iCloud, and that when we communicate with someone else on iMessage, we have a very high degree of confidence for who they are, and we can set up shared secrets that automatically generate fresh quantum-safe keys at any cadence and interval on a per-session basis, for example. And what's really cool is that Apple's now extended this over to an entire cloud computing environment. As of their recent iOS 18 preview with the very high-profile Apple Intelligence announcement, they've taken this concept of protecting shared secrets, and I'll draw your attention to the secure enclaves here on the client devices, the secure enclaves as well with remote attestation on their private cloud compute backends, and they're now implementing this shared secret environment in such a way, particularly with freshly regenerated keys on top of that shared secret, in such a way that even the most highly respected cryptographers in the industry are now acknowledging that this particular specific implementation of confidential computing is one of the most impressive they've seen so far, one of the most bulletproof they've seen so far. And I would say it goes so far as to implement a more practical, high-performance form of homomorphic encryption that is the holy grail of encryption out there for those that know what I'm talking about. More importantly, we can extend this now at BioTone ZKI to any kind of environment, not necessarily just an Apple cloud computing environment. And this is an eye chart, so we're not going to go through all of it in this presentation. We're going to speed run this, and we'll definitely have some follow-on presentations. But again, I'll call your attention to the fact that we're now using secure enclaves at the client and the server to safely share secrets, thus unlocking and enabling symmetric encryption. And we are powering that with very, very convenient ultra-secure sessions through the biometric authentication techniques I covered earlier, as well as a continuous rekeying, so there's no sitting duck, always a moving target for attackers, the continuous rekeying with a zero-knowledge infrastructure that I'll detail even further. Most importantly, this is not just an Apple-specific thing or open-source Linux. This plugs in extremely well into Microsoft environments. So a zero-knowledge infrastructure really is a drop-in replacement for PKI, public key infrastructure, and it plugs directly into Microsoft's Entra identity management systems, Intune device management systems. It also completely simplifies how you source data from your EDRs in an XDR environment, and has downstream benefits for Microsoft Azure Sentinel, Purview, and other security technologies. And because this is an implementation of confidential computing, but with dramatically simpler setup and ongoing maintenance, because it's all automated, this really unlocks the potential of confidential computing for all of Microsoft's Copilot, end-user productivity suites, developer productivity suites, and from an Azure perspective, the entire AI platform, app platform, and data platform can now be inside confidential computing with automated key management based on simple shared symmetric encryption, and without all the vulnerabilities of public key encryption. And let's go for a very practical example here. What we're looking at is how HTTPS and REST works. So all of the sessions behind all these technologies I just discussed have these four fundamental steps with regards to handshaking, the clumsy certificate and key checking back and forth, and then finally you'll notice what everybody really wants, which is that symmetric encryption data transmission, which is the second stage, if you will. It's in the fourth step here of every HTTP and RESTful session. And what we do at BioTone ZKI is we replace the whole concept of static keys and password-based, token-based, certificate-based identity PKI encryption management with what we call quantum seeds or qSeeds. And this is simply applying zero trust provisioning between clients and servers and role-based access, conditional access, all the things we already do today from a provisioning perspective, for example, with Entra in a Microsoft context. And we take those seeds and we continuously generate fresh quantum safe keys on any cadence you want based on new sessions, based on any other policy that you decide, so that it's always a moving target for any adversary in the middle to try and intercept any one of these new zero-knowledge HTTP or RESTful sessions. The best way to think of it is you basically have these continuously updated, kind of like a mini nuclear reactor on a client and server side, continuously updated keys based on this protected shared secret in the secure enclaves and the TPMs, which can be managed by your traditional HSM that's managing these shared secrets now as opposed to manual keys. And there's no handshake required. There's no key exchange required. All of this happens automatically and implicitly every time you need to set up a new session, which makes it pure zero knowledge. What are the important downstream impacts and benefits of this? Well, from a ransomware perspective, what we always want to do is maximize the pyramid of pain for our adversaries. We don't want to make it trivial. We want to impose very high costs of attack in our environment. And we're looking at a common 7-step cyber attack kill chain here, where adversaries go from reconnaissance in our environment to weaponizing their tactics, techniques, and procedures, ultimately delivering that via email, phishing attacks, via social engineering attacks, exploiting the results of those attacks, installing themselves, becoming persistent, establishing command and control, and then performing their ransomware, their data exfiltration, data breaches, and so forth. And every one of those steps now has very low friction for our adversaries, for our attackers, because it's so easy to steal a key, to steal a password, to forge a certificate, to be able to forge cookies and establish fake malicious sessions. All of that stops with ZKI because now there's no way to establish biometrics. There's no way to guess a quantum safe continuously changing key every time you want to set up a new session, which means that all adversaries get stuck at any one of these steps right now. So if you're in step 4, you can't go back to step 3, you can't go forward to step 5. If you're at step 1, you can never get to step 2 and beyond. If somehow you find yourself at step 6, you're stuck, you're trapped, because there's no way to set up a ZKI session to actually act on your ability to control a random environment. So this technology, this drop-in replacement for PKI, is literally a ransomware killer. It imposes extreme cost on our adversaries, and more importantly, it's a complexity killer as well. You don't have to have such sophisticated kernel-level integration into your EDR, XDR agents to be able to extract the right telemetry and identify a trapped adversary when they don't have the luxury of lateral movement, privilege escalation, and all these other tactics and techniques they exploit as part of their attack chains. And now let's get back to quantifying that economic benefit. So this is using the highly respected Forrester Total Economic Impact Framework. And this framework, I highly recommend walking through it, covers, and is customizable, covers a whole range of small, medium, and large scenarios, depending on which you might fit into. And of course, you can shrink wrap the results of these reports using their tool, which is very, very flexible in terms of inputting your own particular criteria. But what you see here is that when you factor in the paralyzing or freezing of adversaries in any one of the cyber attack kill chain steps, with the dramatically simpler overall operational complexity of a ZKI-enabled cybersecurity environment, you've got that median, I wouldn't call it average, I'll call it mathematically true median $300 per user, which is the unit cost I prefer to use, economic benefit of applying ZKI. In that medium-sized organization, that's actually an $18 million annual 3-year annualized economic benefit. For smaller organizations, you'll notice that the operational efficiency is emphasized because the blast radius for a smaller data breach is smaller. But you still have, ironically or interestingly enough, a higher benefit, a higher per user benefit of $530 versus the median case. And at scale, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of users here, the per user economic benefit is still $248, but of course that really tends to add up for these large 100,000 user organizations, and you're looking at nearly a $50 million economic benefit for applying simplicity and replacing PKI with ZKI, zero knowledge infrastructure. Hopefully that wets your whistle and gets you interested in what we can do with regards to adding radical simplicity to our overly complex cybersecurity environment. Feel free to reach out for more information and look out for more videos elaborating on each and every one of these particular technology innovations that I outlined here. Thank you very much.